All right, so I'm here on the wilderness in Olympic National Park, leading a group of kids on a backpacking trip out here. And one of the things I always notice when I'm out here is the amount of garbage that's washing up here. This is the longest remaining undeveloped stretch of wild coastline in the lower 48 states, which is very, very sad considering that it's only a 40-mile, 50-mile section at most. And even on this section, there's no major cities on the coast within hundreds of miles of here. And yet, there are buoys like this everywhere. There's plastic trash. There is, at our camp last night, there were 2 5-gallon buckets with Shell Oil Company logos on them, mostly eroded away, so I couldn't really see what had been in there, but some form of hydraulic oil. There is plastic bottles, there is garbage, there is netting, there is polypropylene rope, there is every form of mostly plastic pollution that you can imagine out here in large amounts. And again, this is one of the wildest coastlines remaining in this country. And so the challenge that I think here is that we need to think bigger. We can't have conservation isolated to these small little areas and expect it to be successful in any sense. And that's why we're seeing, despite the national park system, despite the wilderness system, despite excuse me, despite decades of work by thousands and thousands of people worldwide. I mean, look at this styrofoam right here. We've got a big bundle of buoys right here. Despite decades of work by people from around the world, the sixth mass extinction is accelerating. Global warming is getting worse at a faster and faster rate. And that, I think, points to the insufficiency of the conservation model. Because this pollution, this trash right out here, is coming from global trade networks. It's coming mostly from industrial fishing operations out here in the Pacific, and it's coming from international trade coming across the Pacific Ocean to ports in Seattle and Portland and Los Angeles and Oakland and elsewhere. And that major source of pollution isn't going to stop until the global economy stops, until that global trade stops. So most people have a habit of thinking very small, thinking locally, focusing on local problems. And I think in one sense that's good, but in the other sense, we all need to be thinking globally about these issues. And the reality is that the issues with plastics pollution, and there are billions of tons of plastics in the ocean. There's more plastic than phytoplankton in the ocean. And if you're a filter feeder, then that's killing you. That's poisoning you. That's building up in your intestines and your guts and destroying you. We've all seen those pictures of the albatrosses with their stomachs so full of plastic that they simply are killed by it. So we need to address these problems on a global level. We can't only think locally about these issues, and we can't only think conservation about these issues, because fundamentally land conservation is a defensive tactic. Protecting one place, protecting a natural community, even a larger region, is a defensive tactic. And defense is good, it's necessary, but we also need to think offensively. How do we shut down the sources of these problems at their root? And to me, I always come back to, we need to shut down the global industrial economy, because that is the main factor that is driving the destruction of the planet. It's not the only factor. I think we need to consider many other things, like agriculture itself, I think needs to be questioned. Most people don't understand that's a destructive practice. You destroy everything down to the bare soil, and then you plant it to human use. That's the theft of an entire ecosystem, an entire natural community, and its ability to regenerate and exist. And it's ecocide. is what agriculture is. So there are many layers to this, but I think that today one of the most fundamental problems that we're facing is all the issues that are caused by the global industrial economy. So that's the plastic pollution out here, that's the pollution in the oceans, and a lot more. So thanks.